Welcome back to the Bluegrass. It's beautiful July afternoon. Today we're talking about the importance of consistency in your dog training program. Okay. Now, if you've ever taken a dog training class or read a dog training book or tried to follow along with some type of video instruction, then I'm sure you're familiar with the idea that being consistent with your training methodology is very important in dog training. Now, when people are talking to me, I add a word to that. So I don't just say be consistent. I say you need to be consistent and persistent, right? So you have to do the same things, but you have to do the same things over time in order to really create well-established habits in a dog. And we run a system here, and you guys are familiar with my channel. You know I do the same things with all the dogs all the time. You know, we come out here on the Exercise with Small Challenges course, and we establish a good, simple kind of conversational, basic obedience vocabulary. We make sure that the dogs have some decent proprioception. Then we go out to my pre-adventure area and we get them ready to go hiking off the leash. And then we go out to my farm and we go hiking off the leash and boating and have a good time, right? So I'm pretty consistent and I'm very persistent. And so I have an assistant and she's also very consistent and persistent, or, you know, I wouldn't let her work here. But she came out of the building this morning and she said, Stonnie, I'm having trouble with the dog and I don't understand it because I'm doing the same things with him today that I was doing yesterday, but I'm not getting the same results. And so I said, so you're being consistent? She said, yes, I'm being as consistent as I can be. And I said, now you're putting the work in, you're being persistent. She goes, yeah, sure, I'm being consistent and persistent. And I said, so you're doing the same things that you did yesterday? She said, yes. I said, okay, let's take a step back and let's look at that and see if you're really doing the same things that you were doing yesterday. And here's what she hadn't considered. Yesterday, it was quite a bit warmer than today, and there was no wind, and my neighbors were not making not a peep, right? Today, it's a little bit chillier, and when the temperatures drop, the dogs have a little more energy. It's been raining on and off all day, and the rain affects some of the dogs differently, especially if they haven't been exposed to the rain. And it's been very windy, so we've been getting gusts of wind come in and out. And my neighbor's been running a mower right by the fence on and off all morning, okay? So although my assistant had been doing her best to be consistent, and she's most definitely very persistent, right? She's one of the most persistent people I know. She was getting what she considered subpar results from the dog, okay? And I had to stop her for a second, and I said, listen, don't get so disappointed, because she was getting disappointed with herself. So not only was she working against the environmental factors, she also started to work against herself, because when you get down on yourself, when you feel like something's not working with the dog, well then guess what? It's not going to work with the dog. And that's what I want you to understand. I want you to understand that yes, we want to be consistent with dogs, and yes, we want to be persistent with dogs, but there's a lot of factors that are outside of our control. And our job is to be consistent and persistent, but understand that we're going to get differential results from training session to training session, and it's okay. Dog training progress is not linear. It's not better on Tuesday than it was on Monday and better on Wednesday than Tuesday. It doesn't just go up and up and up. Dog training progress comes in fits and starts. And those fits and starts are related to the dog's developmental stage, the environmental factors like what season is it? You know, what are your neighbors doing? Are your neighbors building a new house and using nail guns? Are you having trouble in your own life? Have you been sick? Have you been having like bad days at work? Okay? We're not worried about making linear progress where every day's better. We're worried about trending upwards. So we know we're going to have some good days and not so good days and good days and not so good. But as long as we're making progress over the course of time, we're in good shape. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to walk a bunch of dogs, and I'm going to try my best to walk the dogs the same way each time I bring them out. So I'm going to do the course. I'm going to load them in the side by side. I'm going to make them sit on that little table over there. I'm going to load them in the kayak. Then I'm going to put them in the pool and make them swim around the pool. Up, up. Come on, nerd. You can do it. And I want you to watch and notice how, although I'm doing the same things, I'm being very consistent, and Lord knows I'm very persistent. The dogs are going to look a little bit different from dog to dog Because they're all different dogs, and they're all at different stages of development. They all have, you know, different amounts of experience with what we're working on. My neighbor, he might decide to come back here and mow this part of his field, or he might go up front and mow that part of the field. And so all I want you to do is I want you to watch the dogs, and I want you to understand that even me, and I mean, I'm as consistent and persistent as you can be, I get different results from dog to dog, and I get different results from day to day. And it's okay, because I just track it, and I make sure that I keep making general progress towards my end state. All right, so I'm gonna go get a different dog now, and we're just gonna do, we'll do maybe like say 5 dogs, okay? And I just want you to watch these 5 dogs, and then I want you to apply with the lessons that you learned from watching me work dogs to your own life, so that you don't get disappointed like my assistant got disappointed today. Guys, if you're watching these kind of videos and you're working with your dog every day, you're so far ahead of regular dog owners that like, you know, you can't mess it up. Just understand that. As long as you're staying busy, you can't mess it up in the long run. All right, so I went in and I grabbed George. Now George is the golden retriever version of Moose. Moose is a white lab, and George is an English cream golden retriever. They have the same personality. They like to do the same stuff. They both like to eat. They both love attention. They both like to do everything that we do around here that's fun. Now, if it comes to actually like doing something boring, like, you know, walking beside the walker, or like just sitting over there and being calm while kids are here and play, they're not so into that. But anything related to being the center of attention, George and Moose, they are partners in crime. I mean, they're just always hanging out together and always doing the same stuff. So I bring George out, and I can be pretty consistent between George and Moose because they both love attention. Watch, they both really like treats, you know. They both have pretty high energy levels, so they're fun dogs to work. But look at already what's different. So I bring George out. When I brought Moose out, he was the only dog. I bring George out, and now Moose is out here following along. And you know, from George's perspective, he's like, well, if Moose is getting to run around and play and do what he wants, why shouldn't I? Now I can be doing the same thing. I'm walking the same course and the same pattern at about the same speed, right? But look what's different. I'm being super consistent and persistent from my actions, but my actions are taking place in an environment where the environmental factors are changing quickly, okay? So I don't know if you can hear it on the video or not, but the wind has picked up substantially, okay? And so I have a lot of trees around here, and they start swaying and making a lot of noise, you know? Now here in a minute, it's actually going to start raining. Again, I can do my best to do everything the exact same way with every dog I bring out, but every time it's going to be a little bit different. And so I'm going to get a little different results. And I wish I knew which dog was going to look best, you know, and which dog wasn't going to look best. Like, see right there, I didn't anticipate that dog coming off that ladder and deciding to go over there and get after that leaf that just blew across the driveway. But I can't control every leaf, you know, okay? So I'm not going to get tore up about it. But objectively, I feel like I did the same thing coming through that tire that I did with Moose, but I lost this dog's attention and he darted off the course, you know? It's okay. It's not doing too bad. Just a couple of weeks ago, come on, nerd. Come on, you can do it. Just a couple of weeks ago, he wouldn't even walk the course. And now look what he's doing. And so here, I think he's holding me hostage. And this is why I think he's holding me hostage. Yesterday, I had a bunch of kids out here, and he would go in here and like hide from the kids, and then they all would do the same thing. Because kids are just going to do what they're going to do. They're not going to necessarily do what you tell them. Whenever he would stay in there and like refuse to come out, then they would all like grab him a treat and be like, oh, come here, you can get a treat, you know, and they would give him a treat. And so he could kind of, you know, hold him hostage, you know, and say, I'm not coming out of the tunnel unless you sweeten the deal for me, right? Another thing that you try to be consistent with, like I consistently try to make sure that all of these leashes get in a lot of hands, right? So everybody that comes to my kennel, they get to walk every dog that's here for training. But not everybody who's walking dogs you know, necessarily is interested in doing things exactly like I said, because some of the people that are walking dogs are 8 years old, you know, and 8-year-olds don't think that I'm all that cool. You know, you guys might think I'm cool because you watch me on YouTube, but trust me, like when you get 3 or 4 8-year-old kids out here, the last thing on their mind is listening to me. And the first thing on their mind is playing with the dogs because they just get, you know, super tore up. All right, so I've already had, I'm doing the same thing, and I've already had 2 situations where this dog did not perform as well as that dog, right? He got off the course, and then he went in the tunnel, and he said, hey, I'm not, you know, I'm not coming out of the tunnel unless you pay me. Now right here, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing with Moose, and you'll notice George is having quite a bit of trouble. Okay? So what leads into that? Okay? Something that you might not realize, but Moose has been here a lot longer than George. Okay, so that's another element. So I'm out here working dogs. George is doing great, or Moose is doing great, and George is doing pretty good for the amount of time that he's been here. But since he doesn't have as much experience, for me to have the same goals for George's training session as Moose's training sessions, I would just be setting myself up for failure. Hup, hup. Now you can see that the sun's starting to come out again. Okay. Now as the sun starts to come out again, the different dogs that I work are going to respond differently. These 2 white dogs, when the sun's kind of, you know, out and it's real bright, they don't mind it very much. They kind of reflect heat. But probably the next dog I bring out is going to be a younger puppy, and he's black. And listen, once the sun's out, all he's doing is looking for shade. So I can be doing the same things. I can be walking the course at the same pace with the same expectations, but something as simple as clouds or no clouds is going to affect how it looks, how my session goes. Go on, very nice. Another thing that'll affect how the session goes, how tall is the dog? You see, like right here, George, because he came here a little bit, you know, he's a little bit older dog, so he's plenty tall to come around this pool and not have to pick his feet up. So he doesn't actually have to swim around the pool. He's just taking a leisurely stroll around the pool. Very good dog. All right, so now there's George. All right, that's 2 dogs walking the course, doing my best to walk it at the same pace that I always walk it. And I've already got 2 different sets of results. Now you guys can think about, why did I get different results? Okay. The environment's changing a little bit. My neighbor on the mower went away. I have dogs that are at different developmental stages. They're different breeds of dogs, okay? And they have different experience levels. So I want you to kind of take some notes, jot that down, start thinking about it for your own dog training. All right, well, listen, get out of the way, nerd. Went in and got Henry. Henry is a nice little Field Bred Labrador Retriever, okay? Now, Field Bred Labrador Retrievers are generally very easy to work with. So like you think, well, I'm going to be consistent, I'm going to be able to walk this course, and I should be able to get through it without any problems, except we have to think about a few things. First off, this dog's only been here a few days, you know, and then the second thing is that he's quite a bit younger than these other 2 dogs. And then the third thing that's working against us right now is he's teething, right? So you can see there that he has a retained canine, and he's got some molars coming in. And look, so when you add all those things up, he's young, he's inexperienced, and he's teething. So I have to go into this session knowing that he's probably going to need a little extra help. So how is that little extra help going to manifest? Come on. Is I'm going to sweeten the pot, right? So as we're walking, I know he's going to get kind of bored with his schooling, and I'm going to say, man, if you just pay attention, good things are going to happen. Now, when I start telling him that good things are going to happen, he's not the only one that's going to hear good things are happening, right? So these other dogs being out, when they start hearing that clicker go off, they're going to line up and they're going to say, hey, I've been good, boss. Don't I deserve a treat? I'm going to have to go, yeah, you do. I really appreciate you coming back and checking in. So he's here, sweetening the pot, okay, to try to make things easier for him, but at the same time, I'm making things a little harder for him because I'm drawing these dogs right into his lesson. And you might say, and people do say this all the time, they say, well, Stonnie, why don't you put the other dogs up so that it makes it easier for the individual dog to be successful? And here's why, guys. I'm not trying to teach dogs to be able to stay focused when everything is going right. I'm trying to teach dogs how to stay focused, to be calm, attentive, and polite when nothing's going right. Okay? So that means that maybe your friends are running around and playing, maybe it's windy, maybe it's noisy, maybe it's hot, you know, whatever. When a dog comes here, you know, one of the most important things about how we look at consistency is that we want consistency across environmental factors. But again, we get back to the idea that once we introduce environmental factors that are outside of our control, we're going to have consistency from our point of view, of what we can control of ourselves, but we're going to get differential results. And so we have to have like a pretty broad definition of what constitutes success and growth from session to session. Let's go. Very nice. Watch out, nerd. Wait. Very good dog. Now see, every time that I try to tell him he's being good, look at these two dogs. They're like, hey, I'm being good too. Okay? So we're working on like a 360-degree wind here. I'm really trying to make those, I'm really trying to make all the dogs like look at learning and working from a super positive perspective. Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to, you know, every session add a little bit of do it because I told you so, you know, but as much as possible, we want things to be fun and positive. But even when I'm making things fun and positive, sometimes the dog that I'm asking to show the most self-control starts to think, well, that's a little bit not fair, because like he's having to be good on this leash and the other dogs are just running around and getting treats. So what, you know, from his perspective, what seems like a better idea, to stand here and be good on the leash or just to run around and get treats? And I have to explain to him that sometimes this is just his role for the day or for the hour or for 5 minutes. And sometimes he'll be the one running around and having fun and his friends will be the ones working, okay? And those are things, again, when we start talking about like developing habits, developing expectations via consistent training regimens, there has to be a certain focus on unpredictability in your consistency. So you need to put your dogs in consistently unpredictable situations, if that makes sense, right? And that's why we have a little element of chaos in every lesson, because life is full of chaotic events. Very nice. So you see how this, like just loading in this side-by-side went. When George was out here by himself, he just got to load in the side-by-side, be the center of attention. When Moose. And then when George came out, he got to get in the side-by-side, but Moose kind of wanted to get in there with him. Now this young guy comes out, and he goes to get in the side-by-side, and he's having to jockey around with those two big older dogs. And so even though I ask them all to get in the side-by-side, I ask them all to get in there under different conditions. And so there was a similar lesson learned, which was you have to get in the side-by-side, but there was a greater lesson learned, which is that you have to get in the side-by-side regardless of whether the conditions make it easy for you to do what's expected or not. Okay? Very nice. Now to keep this guy on this box, it's going to take a fair amount of clicking and treating, because he's always looking for work. And so he's like, why would I just sit there and wait for a treat when I've just been moving and getting treats by moving and working hard? And I say, well, sometimes you get your treats by moving and working hard. Sometimes you get your treats by waiting patiently. So again, the consistency of that expectation is that I want him to look at me and I want him to make decisions based on what he thinks that I expect in a given situation. But then we have to further subdivide that and make him understand that sometimes what I'm going to expect is going to be really active and they're going to require a lot of effort and work on his part. And then sometimes what I'm going to ask him, what I'm going to expect out of him, is to be very passive. Now some dogs, they get the passive stuff very quickly. They get the manner stuff very quickly. Now those dogs aren't usually good at the motion exercises. And the dogs that are good at the motion exercises, they're good at the retrieving, they're good at the swimming, they're good at the kayaking, not good at the hiking. A lot of times those guys struggle with manners a little bit. Up, up. Come on, you can do it. Very nice. Very good. Very nice. Come on, up, 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 up. You can do it. Where are you going? We're going to get in this pool. Come on, nerd. All right, get in there. Now, this is a dog bred for swimming, so it doesn't surprise me that even though he's got very little experience with getting in the pool, he takes to it pretty naturally. And remember what I was saying earlier, like with George, when George gets in the pool, George is so tall because he's a little bit older, he's just kind of walking around in the pool. Well, this little dog, he's actually having to do just a little bit of swimming. Not a lot of swimming, but just a little bit. You see that where he's slapping the water with his paws? We call that water beating. And we try to get that taken care of here at the kennel before we ever head over to the pond. Because it's just something that, you know, comes from a lack of experience. Okay, now I'll go get another dog, and this dog's gonna come out. It looks like it's fixing to start raining, and this dog's gonna have to deal with the fact that now there's 3 dogs out here, but I'm gonna try to stay the same. I'm gonna try to be as consistent as possible, making only the adjustments that I need to make for that individual dog. All right, so I went in and got Sister. Now Sister is an awesome Wire-Haired Pointing Griffon. So as we're working her, we're gonna do everything the same, but of course it's gonna be a little bit different than the other dogs. Okay, so our first dog was a white English Labrador Retriever. Our second dog was an English Cream Golden Retriever, and those 2 dogs have very similar temperaments, okay? The third dog was a Field Bred Labrador Retriever, but he's a little younger and he just got here, so he's very limited in his experience. Now this is a bird dog. And if you ever think about like understanding bird dogs, all you have to do is get in your mind a picture of one of those paintings of these dogs. These dogs are always out in front of a handler, right? So they move away and the handler follows. So if you get a dog that's supposed to be easily distracted by birds, and supposed to move away from a handler, well then it's really not fair to get aggravated with them when you're trying to do obedience training with them and they're always looking away and moving away from you, okay? That's what they are. So I had to kind of sweeten the pot for Henry because he's young and because he's teething and because these other dogs are out here doing stuff and kind of drawing his attention. Well, with Sister, I have to kind of sweeten the pot a little bit because she's literally bred to be distracted easily and to move away from a handler. So every time that I'm trying to get this dog to stay focused and she's trying to move away from me, okay, that's kind of the signs that she has the right genetics. Because what in the world would a person do with a bird dog that never wanted to leave their side? Can you imagine paying a lot of money for a bird dog and you get out of the truck and the dog gets right beside you and looks up at you in a focused heel position and is like, hey boss, you think there's any birds out there? You ought to go out there and find them. No, the bird dog's supposed to get out of the truck and run and find the birds, and then you're supposed to follow, right? Okay, so when I'm doing obedience with this dog, I know she's not gonna have a problem with understanding what's expected. And I know she's not gonna have a problem with the physical aspects of what is expected. But if I understand the genetics of the dog, I understand that she is gonna have a problem staying on task, because she's not a dog bred to do a complex job in conjunction with a handler. She's bred to go out and find birds and have people follow her around, you know? So I have to take that into consideration when I'm thinking about consistently employing the system that I use to influence dogs. And now she is awesome. She's a lot of fun to work with. She's a lot of fun to train. But if I don't keep the pot sweet enough, I do lose her on this leash a lot. And she goes to pulling and smelling and chasing butterflies, okay? But if I can structure my training session just right, and I can bring her out when she's got plenty of energy, then she does a great job, okay? So I really like having her around, and she's a lot of fun. The amount of time it takes with this dog, as opposed to the other dogs, a little bit different, in that, like, I have to break her sessions up in like little shorter increments. Okay, so I do the same thing consistently with this dog. I'm most definitely persistent with the way I try to influence her, but I have to take my sessions and I have to subdivide them into smaller increments than I do with these other dogs. Get off her box, nerd. Come here. Now, so remember I was telling you that the dogs that are good at the motion exercises oftentimes struggle with being still. So something as simple as just staying on this box, kind of tough for a wire-haired pointing Griffon. It's kind of tough for a German Shorthaired Pointer, which I'm gonna bring one of those out next. So I understand that out of the whole course, my struggles are gonna be a little different with the Wire-Haired Pointing Griffon and the German Shorthaired Pointer than the other types of dogs. Up, up. Very nice. Oh, you're a very good dog. Wait. Good dogs, very nice. Easy. Up, up. Come on, you can do it. Now look, so she's saying, no, I can't do it. Now, so one of the things that we have to think about in terms of consistency is I have a series of exercises that I have to get done. And I want the dogs to be excited about doing those exercises, and I want to be able to click and treat and talk nice to them and have them do everything. But there's levels of what's important in terms of consistency. And our most important concept in consistency is making sure that we actually accomplish the goals that we have for our training session. We have some discretion in terms of exactly what that accomplishment looks like, how we define success, but we can't give up on a part of our training session, okay, because then it just kind of has a tendency to not get done. So this dog was a little bit nervous about getting in here, and I offered her, offered her some kind words. I offered her a treat to get in here, and she was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So we throw in a little bit of, well, you have to do it because I said so. Come on, nerd, you can do it. One or two little trips around. Very good. And that's a little bit better than yesterday, because yesterday she's kind of making more of an effort to panic, jump out of the thing. Okay, but so that's what it looks like with the Wire-Haired Pointing Griffon. Now I'm going to go in the kennel and I'm going to get a little sensitive German Shorthaired Pointer. All right, so I went in and got Cash, and Cash is the sweetest little German Shorthaired Pointer you've ever seen. You've heard the term mama's baby. Well, this is a daddy's baby, okay? And he's really sweet, okay? So I want to come out here and I want to walk the course just like I walked with everybody else. But remember I was telling you with some of the other dogs I had to sweeten the pot? Well, this guy, you have to get an extra big pot and throw in a whole bunch of extra big sweeteners to get him to do any work. Come on, nerd. So I'm gonna have to really talk to him and really baby him. Oh my gosh. But now our goals are the same thing. I want to negotiate this whole course, and I want to do so in a reasonable amount of time, and I want to have fun. Okay, but for that to happen with this dog, and wouldn't you know that the wind would kick up when I'm working this one. Okay, for that to happen with this dog, I have to be super lavish with my treats, right? Okay, and I have to make sure that I don't even have an inkling of disappointment in my voice when I'm talking to him. Come on, baby, you can do it. You're a very sweet dog. So I have to be super sweet to him. Now, sometimes you got to be a little extra sweet. Hey, sometimes though, that baby talking and being nice to them, it'll backfire on you and it'll get them so excited that they can't pay attention to what they're doing. Okay, so this is where we really always get back to what I say about dog training is an art, it's not a science. Oh my gosh, you gotta have just the right amount of baby talk, just the right amount of treats, and just the right amount of do it because I said so. Okay, and if you can manage to get all of those things right, you can be a very good dog trainer. And you can consistently make progress, even though you consistently have to make changes in your actual application of your dog training methodology. Come on, babies, you can do it. Notice how much I'm having to kind of bend down, and be super inviting. Oh my gosh, a very good dog. Kind of get on his level. Good. And as long as I'm willing to do that, come on, you can do it, baby, then he does well. Now, if I try to go too far in between the treats, or if I allow even the slightest bit of bossiness into my voice with this particular dog, then what happens is he shuts down. And he'll just kind of lay down and not look at you, and then he, you know, then he won't respond. He'll kind of, come on, babies. He'll just kind of take himself out of the activity. And so, you know, I'm telling you to be consistent, and I'm telling you have to sweeten the pot, and I'm telling you that also sometimes you have to teach the lesson about you do it because I said so. Again, there's changes to be made from session to session. With some of the dogs, when they freeze up on things, you can go back in the video and you can see that I kind of just make them do it. And that's when I'll talk to you about doing things because I said so, okay? With this dog, there's very little of that, and there's a whole bunch of, oh my gosh, look what you did. You're such an enterprising young lad. You know, like right there, you see how he moved away from the part of the course that I wanted him to do, and he came over here into this tunnel. Now, normally, what I would say there to the dog is, no, we're doing the part of the course that I want to do right now because I said so. But with this guy, where I've had a little bit of trouble getting him really involved in and excited about doing the course, like he said, hey, Stonnie, what if I run over here and do the tunnel? Would you be happy with me? I had to make a split-second decision there and tell him, yeah, sure, buddy. I'm always happy with you when you're looking for work. Okay, so you'll remember with the Field Bred Lab that sometimes the fact that he's looking for work, that puts me in a situation where I have to say, no, we're going to do it because I said so. And then right here, this dog went to looking for work, and I didn't say, we're going to do what I want to do because I said so. I said, wow, what a good dog. What a hard worker you are. And from you guys' perspective, I'm sure that to a certain degree, that seems inconsistent. But it's the farthest things from inconsistent if you take into account everything else that I said. Our primary goal is to get through the course and make some progress. Okay, that's what we're after. We want to come out here and we want to be able to walk the course, and we want to do a little better than we did yesterday, but we understand that we're not always going to do better than yesterday, okay? We want to teach the dogs that doing stuff with us works out to their advantage, and working hard leads to freedom and fun. We want to make the dogs understand that there are some things in life that just have to be done because I said so. So those overarching goals, our overarching system never changes, but the application of the system from moment to moment changes. So we're consistently applying principles, but we're consistently making small adjustments that guarantees success over time. And that's why dog training is an art, not a science, okay? There's just too many things going on for you to be able to think you're going to come out here and plug a dog into an exact formula and be able to get the same results day after day from the same dog, or in my case where I'm working with lots of dogs, from different dogs, okay? These dogs are all growing up quick, they're changing, the weather's changing, what's going on in the background is changing. I mean, there's just lots of stuff going on. Again, right there, you see where I wanted to go over to the pool, and he said, hey, Stonnie, I'm gonna look for work, I'm gonna get back on the kayak. If that was Henry, okay, I would have said, no, dude, we're going to the pool right now. Because I really need to teach Henry that some things have to get done because I say so. This guy, where he's a little bit more sensitive and he's a little bit more worried, I'm going to put that lesson off a couple of weeks. And right now, I'm just going to really try my best to tell him how happy and proud I am of him when he makes decisions related to looking for work, related to making me proud of me. Because that's what he did right there. He jumped up there and he said, hey, Stonnie, isn't this awesome? I had to come back over here and say, yeah, that's awesome. That's not so awesome. Don't chew on my thing. Come on, nerd. All right, so I'm going to try to get him down. Come here. Come on, come on. You don't need to be eating my kayak, dude. You don't need to be eating my kayak. Come on, let's come down this way. Very nice. Okay, now, when we go over here and we get in this pool, again, consistently, what have I done? I've come over here and I've got the dogs in the pool. Remember, George was able to stand up and walk around the pool. This guy's pretty short, so he's going to have to swim all the way around the pool. So this is a different experience for him. So I have to be consistent in my application of my technique, but I have to be consistent in my ability to change my definition of what constitutes success. Come on, come here, nerd. Very nice. Whoa! Very good, you can do it. Now this is kind of how they all start out. See how, like, instead of understanding that he's going to swim in a circle, you see how he's thinking about like just getting out of the pool? This comes to another concept that I talk about on the channel a lot that really brings us to understanding positive reinforcement training the best. Is positive reinforcement training ultimately boils down to the dogs learning to access things they want via indirect action. So like, for example, he wants out of this pool. So what I'm going to explain to him here is that I need some progress towards swimming the perimeter of the pool for him to get out. Come on, nerd. You can do it. So if I have to reach in here and hold him by the collar, whatever I have to do to get a correct rep, or a more correct rep than yesterday, that's what we're going to do. Come on, you can do it. If I have to walk fast, come on, you can do it. And I don't need much. Don't need much. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Let's go fast. Come on, come on. There we go. Very nice. Very nice. Just calm it down a little bit. Very nice. Good boy. One more trip. One more trip. Come on. And that's not perfect. It's a little better than yesterday. Okay. Now, our consistent rule is the dogs get their work done, that they can go play and do what they want. So you see yet another example of me being consistent and persistent in both the application of my technique and my ability to make adjustments on the fly based on the particular dog and the particular environmental conditions. Okay, I'll go get a poodle next and we'll look at a 4-year-old dog. Okay guys, I went in and got Dino. Now Dino is an awesome standard poodle. He happens to be 4 years old, which may be the oldest dog I've ever featured in a YouTube video. Now with Dino, I'm going to use him as an example of how sometimes consistency can backfire on you when you're implementing your training protocols. Okay, so all of you are familiar with my channel. You know that I start off my formal obedience sessions the same way. I have the dogs hop up on this small examination table and then I give them the once over. I look in their ears, their eyes, their teeth, their spine, all their joints and toes, and I'm just trying to make sure that they're ready to tackle all the different activities we have planned for the day. Well, these poodles, almost all of them have what are known as overactive tear ducts. Okay. Now some people will call that runny eye, some people will call it watery eye, but basically if you get them out and start doing much with them, their eyes get irritated and they end up kind of getting a buildup, you know, multiple times a day in the corner of the eye. So when I see that, I think to myself, as soon as I see it, oh, I should clean that up. So I reach in my pocket and I bring out my little cloth and I start cleaning up his eye. Okay. But when I was doing that, I had forgotten just how sensitive and pattern cognizant poodles are. Okay. When I was a young kid, people would talk about how poodles are the smartest dogs. Okay. And I think like a better way to say it is that they're just extremely pattern cognizant. In other words, it doesn't take long for them to understand how a situation is going to unfold. And so inadvertently, I was starting all of my obedience sessions on a negative note. He was starting to think that every time we came out here, I was going to put him on this table and something uncomfortable was going to happen to him. Now, from my point of view, I was trying to make him more comfortable, but I'm used to seeing lots of labs, lots of golden retrievers, lots of short hairs, lots of very temperamentally resilient dogs, dogs that aren't particularly sensitive. So if you have to clean up their eyes a few times, it doesn't matter, they don't care, right? They bounce right back. But I was hurting his feelings every single time that I would clean up his eyes. And I was doing it at the beginning of our training session. So the consistency that I was showing in adherence to my routine actually was backfiring against me with this dog, and he wasn't wanting to do the routine. And I would ask the girls, I'd say, hey, what's wrong with that dog? Why is he not wanting to come out here and have fun? And they didn't know. And little did I know that I was the reason. Because I think of myself as a pretty fun guy, and I was making his whole training experience not fun from the jump, okay? So there's a perfect example of how you have to be willing to be consistent, but you have to consistently make adjustments. Now another place, come on, where we ran into problems with consistency was how we approached teaching the dog to navigate the course. Now, for the most part, we have a bunch of young, hardy dogs here that love to eat and love attention. And so, like, if you want them to do something like climb this log, you just come out here, you get them a little excited, you take a treat, and you kind of lead them over it a few times, and next thing you know, they just do it because they like doing it. Okay? But with a 4-year-old dog, I would offer him his treat, okay? And he'd be like, well, I'm not really growing. I don't really need to work super hard for calories, okay? And then I had to remember that poodles are notoriously picky eaters, right? So I had to go old school with how I introduced this part of the obedience program to him so that I could move on to the new school. So I would have to come out here and I would have to take my leash and shorten it up and show him that their only way to continue to make progress was towards me. If he tries to go over that way, I control him with the leash. If he tries to go over that way, I control him with the leash. The only way to get to me, the only way to get through this course is to come with the leash pressure, okay? And in the 70s, a lot of these type of dogs were trained simply with rote repetition. German Shepherds were also very popular, and they were trained with rote repetition. So what you see now in dog training is a whole bunch of really toy-driven dogs or really food-driven dogs. And so it looks like the dog trainers have made a lot of progress in terms of clicking and treating and holding toys under their arms, but in reality, they kind of switched dogs, okay? So I get a dog down here, come on, nerd. And first things first, I had to change the order of operations because I was making him uncomfortable before I was able to start my obedience lesson. Okay. Then the second thing I had to do was I had to reevaluate my principal way of motivating and educating the dog in relation to what was expected of him in these situations. Okay. Now here's where the hard part comes in. All the people that I see on a daily basis are down here to learn the same style of training that I use, where they want to click and treat and click and treat, right? And so I use the dogs that are here to teach the people, and I teach the people that come down here to visit me to teach the dogs, right? So basically I run a big Montessori where people are learning to influence dogs and dogs are learning to be influenced, but I don't have time to teach everybody every method from 1975. So what I had to do is I had to come out here and I had to use an old school method of teaching the dog the method, of teaching the dog the obstacle course. And then I had to come out here and once he knew it, come back in and layer over the top of that with a little bit of marker training so that when I handed his leash to a 12-year-old kid, that the 12-year-old kid could practice modern techniques on a dog that actually had to be started using traditional techniques. Okay? So things can get kind of complicated, but there was consistency to my actions. The consistency was, look, I still have to make sure that this dog's healthy every day. I can't let him walk around with a lot of goop in his eyes. So I still have to clean up his eyes. But now I do it after the obedience session and after we've done a lot of exercise when he's really chill and tired, okay? I still have to, come on nerd, I still have to teach him about marker training because that's what 99% of the people that come down here to interact with dogs are coming to learn how to do, right? And I want him to have as many positive interactions with people as possible. So that's consistent. So I want the dog to be healthy. So that's the same across the board. I want the dog to be able to negotiate this obstacle course and build confidence and learn to access freedom via indirect action. I want him to learn that obedience equals freedom. So that's consistent. I want him to be able to work with a wide variety of people. So that's consistent, okay? But I had to have the ability to make adjustments on my individual elements of my training protocols in order to reach my big goals. Okay? And you've seen that play out, come on nerd, over and over and over with each dog that we've worked with, okay? Some of the dogs, we started off with Moose. Moose loves to eat, he loves attention, he's got a super resilient temperament, he's really easy to fool with, right? So our standard daily activities worked fine with him, okay? Then we went to George. Same thing. George is just the golden retriever version of Moose. Then we went to a field trial lab, Henry. And when we went to Henry, we had to make some adjustments based on his age and based on the fact that he looks for work, and sometimes when he looks for work, he can get himself in trouble. Then we went to Sister. Sister's a Wire Haired Pointing Griffon, and we had to make adjustments because Sister is a dog that is bred to be easily distracted. She's a bird dog. Nobody would ever breed a bird dog that wants to stay by the truck. Then we went from Sister to another kind of bird dog, a German Shorthaired Pointer. His name's Cash. With Cash, he's just super sensitive. He's daddy's baby. And so everything we do has to be super slow and super easy and super positive. And you can't even let a moment of doubt or a moment of negativity into your voice. Then we went to this poodle. 4 years old, different type of dog, was popular in a different era when dog owners and trainers had different ideas about what constituted proper training methodology, what constituted a proper relationship with the dog. Okay, and so with him we had to make adjustments and train him in an old-fashioned way, just so that we could get him to understand the new-fashioned way, right? Because what I'm after out here is tons and tons of experience. Okay, and I know. You'll notice, you see here where, like, as he's trying to step on the kayak, he's making more missteps than the other dogs. Well, he's old and it's hard to pick up physical activities when you're old. Okay? Watch when I put him in the pool. Watch the look on his face when I put him in the pool. So I know that, that adjustments have to be made. Come on. Now, poodles are supposed to be water dogs, but they, I don't know how much of that's actually true. All right, so I'm going to put him in here. And like George, he doesn't even have to swim in the beginning. But if I'm going to take him on an adventure, if I'm going to take him to the pond with me, okay, if I'm going to take him to the river with me, I have to get him to where he's comfortable with the water. And you see him starting to freeze up. And you see the rain coming. And I have to, in my mind, not push him. Not get too caught up in the idea of just doing things because I said so, but at the same time, not allowing him the options not to succeed. So again, consistency in terms of my overarching goals, consistency in terms of my overarching approach, but the ability to make adjustments as necessary to ensure each individual dog's chances of realizing their full potential. Look at the look on his face. He's like, I can't do it. I won't do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit out here and I'm going to be consistent with him every day until he realizes that he can do it and that he will do it and will ultimately end up having a really good time. Okay? It's just a matter of putting the work in every day. So, to sum this video up, guys, consistency is one of the most important elements in dog training, okay? But you consistently have to have the ability to make the adjustments that help your dog succeed when you take into account the type of dog that it is, the developmental stage that it is, the environment that you live in, and most importantly maybe is your own work ethic and ability to set reasonable goals, okay? But if you can do all that stuff, you're guaranteed to be successful. And like I said, a million times in other videos, it's very easy to get frustrated or to get disappointed because you feel like you're doing what everyone else is doing, but you're not getting the same results. Well, the truth is, not everyone you see on YouTube or Instagram are getting the same results either. They just videotape the best examples, okay? And that gives you guys kind of a false sense of how easy it is, okay? Dog training is very simple from my perspective, but to be successful in the long run, the one rule that you can't ever get away from is understanding that simple and easy aren't the same things. All right, guys, so take a look at all those dogs and see how, even though I tried to be consistent with all of them, it looked a little different every time, okay? And then apply that lesson to your life with your dog and get in the comment section below and tell me whether or not you've had some of these similar experiences, okay? And let's see if we can't, spread some knowledge and get everybody working together towards common goals. All right, I'll see y'all next week. Very good. Come on, dog, get out of that pool.